In this video, we're going to take a look at the encoder modes that are accessible in PXT-Live. There's 6 main encoder modes that are accessible from these 6 buttons here. In the global encoder mode, you can control set-wide parameters. This is primarily useful in arrangement view. The first encoder can rewind and fast forward. By default, it moves in 1 beat increments. If you hold shift, it'll move in 1 bar increments. The next encoder can jump between locators. Also, if shift is pressed, it can add a locator at the current position. If a locator already exists at that position, the locator will be deleted. The next encoder adjusts arrangement loop start. By default, this will adjust in 1 beat increments. If you hold down shift, it'll adjust in 1 bar increments. The next encoder adjusts arrangement loop length. And again, by default, this adjusts in 1 beat increments. If shift is pressed, it'll adjust in 1 bar increments. The next encoder simply toggles arrangement loop on or off. The next encoder can horizontally zoom in or out. The next encoder vertically zooms in or out on the selected track. If shift is pressed, it'll vertically zoom in and out on all tracks. And the final encoder adjusts global groove amount. The in and out buttons toggle punch in and out respectively. In drum rack mode, you can control the mixer settings of the selected drum rack pad. There's a variety of ways to select pads. You can use the 8th encoder here to scroll between pads. You can also click on a pad with your mouse, or you can trigger a pad from a controller. Once a pad is selected, you can control its volume, panning, and its first 5 sends. Holding down shift and touching any of the encoders will reset the associated parameter back to its default value. The in button controls the pad's mute switch. If you press it quickly, it'll toggle, and if you hold it down, it turns into a momentary switch. The out button works the same way except for solo. Shift plus the in button will unmute all drum rack pads, and shift plus the out button will unsolo all drum rack pads. This mode controls the drum rack on the selected track. You can also lock it to a particular track with shift plus pan and send. This way you can maintain controlling its drum rack while you navigate around to other tracks. And finally, delete plus the pan and send button will delete the drum rack. The track mode provides control over the selected track via 2 sub-modes that you can select between with the in and out buttons. The default sub-mode is pretty much the same as Push's track mode, except it only gives you access to 5 sends plus an output meter, and shift plus the encoders will reset the associated parameter back to its default value. The I/O sub-mode allows you to control the track's input routing, input sub-routing, output sub-routing, its monitoring status, and its crossfade assignment. This mode will control the selected track. You can also lock it to a track with shift plus the track button. That way you can maintain control over a track while navigating around. Finally, delete plus the track button will delete the track. Clip mode provides control over the selected clip via 2 sub-modes which you can switch between with the in and out buttons. This mode controls the selected clip. You can also lock it to a particular clip with shift plus the clip button. That way you maintain control over the clip even as you navigate around. You can delete the clip with delete plus clip. The default sub-mode is similar to Push's clip mode. The first encoder controls the start marker. This and the next 3 encoders are all quantized. You could change the quantization with the last encoder. This way you can do fine adjustment or coarse adjustment. The next encoder controls the end marker. The next encoder controls loop start. And the next encoder controls loop end. After that, you've got detuning, transposition, and gain. The note edit sub-mode allows you to edit the notes within the MIDI clip. There's actually 2 of these, an event editor and a range editor. You can switch between those with the out button. In the event editor, you'll edit 1 note at a time. You can choose the event to edit with the first encoder. By default, you'll be going through events based on their position. You can use the sort by encoder here to instead go through them by pitch. The next encoder allows you to adjust the pitch of the event. The next encoder adjusts position. And this is quantized. You can use the last encoder to select the quantization to use. This way you can do fine or coarse adjustment. The next encoder adjusts duration. And again, this is quantized. The next encoder controls velocity. And the next encoder controls the mute status of the note. You can delete the selected event with delete plus the out button. You can add an event with shift plus the out button. Range edit is similar to event edit, except that it allows you to edit ranges of notes. You can select the pitch range with the first 2 encoders, and the position range with the second 2 encoders. Once you've selected a range, you can edit it with this encoder here. You could choose the type of editing with the type encoder. You can delete the selected range with delete plus the out button. Device mode allows you to control the selected device in a way that's similar to the APC40. You can use the encoders to control the device's parameters. Holding down Shift and touching an encoder will reset the associated parameter back to its default value. You can turn the device on and off with the device button. If the device has more than 8 parameters, you can move between banks of 8 parameters with the in and out buttons. Shift plus in and out will navigate between devices. You can lock to a device with Shift plus the device button, and you can delete the device with delete plus the device button. Learn mode allows you to assign arbitrary device parameters to the encoders. It's similar to MIDI mapping, but a bit more intelligent. There's actually 2 of these modes that you can access with the in and out buttons. They're functionally identical. They just allow you to have 8 assignments each. Assigning parameters to the encoders is very straightforward. You just enter Learn mode, click on the parameter you want to control, and then touch the encoder you want to control it with. And that's it. Then you've got control over the parameters. Holding down Shift and touching an encoder will reset the associated parameter back to its default value. Now these assignments will apply to whichever track is selected. So if I switch to a different track, I've got immediate control over the parameters I've assigned.